get ready.
We are now starting our descent into Orlando.
In September 1993, Universal Studios Florida held a press conference where it was formally announced that they had plans to build a second theme park. This would progress Universal Studios from a single theme park to a full-fledged resort, with the inclusion of 5 new hotels and other features such as a golf course. Steven Spielberg would serve as an advisor and consultant to this new project, having worked very closely on a number of attractions in the original park, such as E.T. Adventure, Jaws, Men in Black Alien Attack, Twister Ride It Out, and Back to the Future The Ride. He promised that this second park would feature the most amazing rides and attractions anyone has ever experienced. The attractions were set to use technology that regular Universal guests would become all too familiar with, incorporating 3D footage and projections, virtual reality and simulated movement. But this wasn't the attraction death curse that we commonly associate with it today. This was the 1990s, and these technological advancements were still new and exciting. They hadn't been flaunted in every new development at the resort, at least not yet, and at the time they were being used efficiently and well, providing purpose and thought into effective attraction design and not just a quick and easy development project to open a new attraction for the next season. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man was unlike anything guests had ever experienced before. Closer to the opening of the park, when details were being confirmed in the press, Universal boasted that The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man was the greatest ride ever built. Is that the case? Well, you can be the judge, but it went on to win the Golden Ticket Award for Best Dark Ride for 12 consecutive years following its opening, as well as various other fan and industry awards in different categories.
A new universe of theme parks, resorts, and nightlife. Universal Studios Escape. Are you ready?
The history. As part of some of the early concepts for this park, Islands of Adventure was originally conceived to have a DC Comics area. This was set to include a dueling Batman coaster and Superman-themed dark thrill ride. The original idea for the land was scrapped, however, as Warner Bros. Pulled out of the deal. This was most likely due to many of the DC comics already being used in various Six Flags parks around the US at the time. Universal then turned their attention to a struggling Marvel, who had recently filed for bankruptcy. They didn't offer the same level of cinematic blockbuster appeal like DC, however, as they were not in the realm of movie making that they later would become as we know today. They did house several comics and characters that were known in the mainstream popular culture though, and did have a number of successful cartoon shows on television throughout the 1990s. This lent itself well to the overall theme of the park, with various out of the ordinary and fantastical experiences you can find in the various lands. Since Spider-Man was one of the leading figures in the Marvel Universe, as well as being accessible to a wide age group, it was deemed that this was the most suitable character for the basis of a dark ride attraction. This wouldn't just be any typical dark ride though. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man would deploy an onslaught of visual and 3D effects, physical special effects, motion simulation, pyrotechnics, and other features to create the most immersive dark ride the world had ever seen. Ride vehicles would move from scene to scene in a show building, but this would occur in tandem with 3D screens, further immersing the guests into the attraction, blending the boundaries between the physical and virtual worlds. Oceaneering International would be the lead manufacturer for the vehicles of this attraction, in conjunction with Universal Creative. Oceaneering International was originally founded as a subsea engineering company, building remotely operated vehicles before delving into the world of entertainment technology. In 1992, they had been contracted by Universal Studios to redesign and build the animatronic sharks for their Jaws attraction, after the disaster of its opening season. This led to a long-lasting relationship that would see the company work on several other attractions in the resort, such as Revenge of the Mummy, Jurassic Park River Adventure, and Transformers The Ride. Universal Creative took influence from Back to the Future The Ride to give its flying and hovering sensations associated with that attraction, as well as T2 3D Battle Across Time, which really pushed the envelope in terms of immersive 3D effects in the early 90s. Enhanced motor vehicles similar to the cars featured in Indiana Jones in Disneyland were developed by Oceaneering International. The ride vehicles feature a 6 stock motion base, which allows the cars to simulate bumps and uneven surfaces. Although the car itself is mostly on a flat track, the base gives an added motion and simulation of varying textures. This also has the ability to spin on point, ensuring that riders fluidly move to different ride scenes. only showing what they are intended to see at any given point. Think of it like Doom buggies found a haunted mansion, but for the 21st century. Disney used the Omnimover system with its towering back of the buggy to help frame the shot. This restricted riders to only see within this frame, almost like a movie. You can't see what's off screen even though there's something there. The ride vehicles in the Spider-Man attraction spin to show you exactly what you need to see, and this plays in tandem with the ride scene surrounding it. Perfectly framing the attraction from the rider's perspective makes for good attraction design, ensuring that guests are captured by the ride, without breaking the immersion by showing the back-end features that they shouldn't see. The experience. Like most good attractions, the experience needs to be established from your first interaction with the ride itself. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man has a great queue, and this really helps the rider step inside the world of the comics. The queue takes you through the Daily Bugle office. J. Jonah Jameson provides the history and success of the newspaper in the style of the 90s cartoon, which is comprised of really nice artwork and aesthetic, which overall really helps the appeal of this section of the attraction. This adds a nice nostalgic feel to it in this day and age. He also introduces us to the Scoop, the new vehicles used in collecting news stories. The Sinister Syndicate, a group of villains made up of Dr. Octopus, Electro, Hydro Man, Hobgoblin, and Scream, are on the loose and are causing chaos in the city using Doc Ock's anti-gravity cannon. They've stolen the Statue of Liberty and are going to destroy it if the city doesn't surrender to them. Guests board the Scoop to get, well, the inside scoop of the story, equipped with night vision goggles which act as 3D glasses. From the queue alone, riders are fully integrated into the story. The elaborate line also provides an entertaining experience through the Daily Bugle office and is a nice walkthrough in and of itself, particularly for fans of the comics. Immersive is the key phrase that comes to mind when describing this queue, and this is key to all good story-based attractions. Without it, the ride feels hollow. The goal of a good ride is to take riders to a different world, and this is achieved here. As you walk through the line, you are part of the story and you know what the goal is of the ride itself. You are now a reporter for the Daily Bugle and you have a mission. You're ready to ride. Guests board a 12-person Scoop vehicle. J. Jonah Jameson tells the reporters that there's crimes being committed all across the city. We see the spider signal, and this obviously means headlines. We're told to go out, get the coverage, and not to screw it up. We're visited by Spider-Man, and he tells us that this is going to be dangerous and we need to be careful. We nearly get hit by a bin truck, and in typical Marvel fashion, this is actually being driven by Stan Lee himself. We enter a warehouse which features the tablet from the Statue of Liberty. This warehouse is where the statue is being held and is currently dismantled. The Sinister Syndicate spots us and each member attacks the Scoop. Electro shocks the Scoop, Scream tries to claw us, and Doc Ock then tries to shoot us with the anti-gravity cannon but misses, as seen by the floating head of the statue and the large crate hovering. We escape down the sewers and Spider-Man tells us to head back to the Bugle, but Hydro Man appears from behind him. Spider-Man tries to attack him, but it's futile. His punches don't register against his liquid body, leaving riders lightly doused in water. He punches Spider-Man, which knocks a pipe that hits the Scoop, pushing us into the next scene further down the sewer. Doc Ock bursts through a brick wall and latches onto the Scoop using one of his mechanical arms. He threatens us with a blazing mechanical arm, filling the room with heat that the riders can feel. He plays a pun in typical villain fashion, advising us that things are starting to heat up. Reversing, the Scoop finally detaches from Doc Ock's arm, and we leave the sewer and end up at Manhattan Bridge. The Hobgoblin appears on his hoverboard, equipped with pumpkin bombs. As Hobgoblin throws the bomb towards the Scoop, Spider-Man intervenes with a web sling, catching the bomb mid-air. He attempts this again, but Spider-Man jumps on his hoverboard, making Hobgoblin misfire, and the bomb crashes into the bridge. This causes an explosion and flame effects in the actual scene itself. Doc Ock appears again and attempts to shoot Spider-Man with his anti-gravity cannon before turning the cannon on the Scoop. This is where riders start to soar above the cityscape, travelling up 40 stories above Manhattan. The levitating scene uses various different effects to give you a very convincing feeling of flying. You initially see the light from the levitation gun come off screen as you are engulfed in a green hue. Bellowing fog effects further encapsulate the rider for a few seconds as you spin around to the next projection. This disorients riders momentarily and masks the transition very well. In front of new screens, you are seen to be rising up above the city buildings. The set around you plays a big part in creating this effect. Parts of the physical buildings are static, but with lighting cues. This gives the impression that windows to buildings are moving downwards as you levitate upwards. A physical building is also dropped out of sight of the riders in the car, further implying that you are soaring above skyscrapers. The motion base of the vehicle also gives you an airy feeling as if you're hovering in an unbalanced fashion, as well as wind effects so you can feel the city air blow through your hair. How all of these effects are built on top of each other really gives a sense of flying which is very difficult to rival, even by today's standards. Spider-Man attempts to sling us back to the ground, but the Hobgoblin attacks him on his hoverboard. The scoop is attached to Spidey's web sling, so we are catapulted flying through the air in tow. Spider-Man manages to latch onto a tower while Hobgoblin crashes into the scoop and subsequently falls to the streets below. Hydro Man and Electro come to attack the scoop once again, but Spider-Man manages to swing between the two. Electro, in an attempt to electrocute the scoop, ends up shocking Hydro Man, causing him to disappear into steam. Doc Ock then restores gravity to the scoop, as he wishes us a happy landing. The scoop violently crashes onto the roof of the building below, and teeters over the edge before falling the full 400 feet to the ground below. But of course, Spider-Man manages to cast a net using his web-slinging skills to catch the scoop, saving us from splattering into the pavement. As we round the corner, we can see the Statue of Liberty has been restored to its rightful place and the Sinister Syndicate are captured. Spider-Man, hanging upside down above a group of onlookers, including a Stan Lee again by the way, thanks us for our help before we return back to the Daily Bugle. As we head back into the station, we can see that J. Jonah Jameson has been entrapped by the anti-gravity gun, where we see his silhouette in the office as he remains levitating. A note beside the cannon reads, "To J. Jonah Jameson, here's the raise you deserve, from Spider-Man." As we exit the scoop, Stan Lee makes his third appearance as a voice cameo, advising guests to return their night vision goggles. And as all good attractions do, we exit through the gift shop. Why is it so good? The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is an action-packed attraction that does not let up. From the moment you enter the scoop to the moment you exit, the ride is intense, thrilling, immersive, and above all else, very fun. The ride is an onslaught for the senses. There's also a mixture of practical effects which work in conjunction with the 3D effects seen on screen. This allows for the fluid movement of what you can see on the projections into the physical world and set around you. This blurs the lines between projection and reality, creating an immersive effect and making it more difficult to decipher what's really there and what isn't. This, along with the classic 4D effects such as fire, heat, mist, fog, and strobe lighting, really help portray the story being told around you. Before this, it was difficult to utilise a moving vehicle that worked in conjunction with 3D effects and screens. To put it simply, Universal had to find a way to make 3D work from a moving point of view. Often in stationary 3D settings, there's a particular spot which will give the most authentic view. Anywhere else might be skewed or look blurry. To allow for this fluid transition, Universal created an effect called squinching. By predicting the rate of distortion riders would experience as they move towards the screen, the animation would distort in the opposite direction. The view that you see is therefore moving in conjunction to the ride vehicle, giving a seamless view without losing the immersive effect. This is why as you move from scene to scene, you don't feel like you're just looking at various off-center screens. The scenes being projected have an actual depth to them, and it feels like you can enter into the room that is being projected. This doesn't feel flat or hollow like other 3D attractions. It's not just a series of things popping out at the screen, for example. The environment itself feels like it exists, and this further plays into the blend of real-life props and sets that make up either side of the projections. From a stationary position, it looks stretched and tweaked, but from a moving ride car that moves in tandem with the screen, it almost perfectly portrays a window into a movie scene that you're in. Like the original Universal Studios slogan, "You can ride the movies," or comic books I guess in this case. Feedback was so good that the ride was later included in Universal Studios Japan in 2004. The year following its inclusion, attendance at the park rose by 1 million from its previous year. In 2011, the ride went under a major refurbishment. The projections were upgraded to 4K high-definition film using a brand new projector system and updated 3D glasses. The attraction reopened in March 2012 to a resounding positive feedback. The higher definition aided the immersive qualities of the projections for a more video quality conscious audience. The fact that this was a 3D ride which enabled guests to travel through various scenes with actual moving vehicles was unlike anything else they had experienced before. Rides such as Back to the Future The Ride proved popular, but the range of motion was limited. By boarding a vehicle though that moved along a track makes for a much more exciting experience and further encapsulate riders into the story. Have you ever ridden a simulator ride and looked around a room and then you notice that you're just sitting in these weird moving chairs and then you completely lose your immersion? Yeah, that doesn't really happen in this ride. Universal has gone to use this formula in other rides, often with very good effects too, like Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. Similar attractions also exist in other parks, such as The Adventures of Ratatouille in Disneyland Paris, and coming to Epcot soon as well, which is a more family-focused trackless dark ride, but very similar in principle. And of course, Universal loved it so much they essentially rebuilt the exact same thing and put it in the other park with different branding. Final thoughts. When it first opened, no one had experienced anything quite like this. I know from my own personal experience that 8-year-old me came off this ride the first time I went on it, and I had no idea what I just experienced. I was fully convinced that we were flying up 40 stories above the city and subsequently falling to my death. So there is that. The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man might just be the best dark ride ever created. It perfectly blends creative and immersive scenes with delicately layered special effects. It provides a decent level of thrill without alienating a lot of theme park goers like more intense attractions such as the Incredible Hulk. This amazing attraction is accessible to the majority of guests and proves to be an exciting experience to a wide variety. Younger riders can enjoy this just as much as older ones, and you don't need to be an adrenaline junkie to go on it. It's just very entertaining. You can ride this ride over and over again and you'll still enjoy it. And for that reason, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is a good ride. And that concludes this episode of What Makes This Ride So Good. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button for some more videos like this and other theme park videos, and let us know in the comments below if there's any particular attraction you'd like to see get covered off in this series.